Hello, everybody, and welcome to Sihasin Hour today. Today we have Sahar Khadjenoury. Did I say that right, Sahar? Can
You
you?
did.
Okay, I hope I was close. And Senator Theresa Hatathlie-Delmar, as well as Lene Bitsui with us. And we just want to have a bit of a conversation on the spring council session that took place last week. And we want to go ahead and also talk about the state of the nation that was put forth by the president, Jonathan Nez, and also the speaker's report and some of the topics that were included in those particular reports. My name is Mahayo Manus. I'm the public relations director with Yehal Nido, that does business as the Navajo and Hopi Families COVID-19 Relief Fund. And I'm glad to be here with this panel of leaders. So I'm going to go ahead and let everybody introduce themselves very briefly. And we'll start with Sahar, and then we'll go with Theresa, and then we'll go with Lene. So Sahar, if you could just give us a brief introduction, that'd be great.
Yat Shay Sahar Khadjenoury Yinishe, Nakai Dinatin do Persian bushes chin, with Ahni that should do Persian that Chanela, with Adana is Slim. My name is Sahar Khadjenoury, coming to you from Aneth, Utah. I am Navajo and Persian, and I am the coordinator for the Utah Navajo COVID Relief Program, and I am also the media youth coordinator at the Navajo program, which is a behavioral health program for the teens and young adults at the Utah Navajo Health System. I wear many hats, so I come to you with different perspectives. So yeah.
Yat Shea bin betrodni nishle, Ishin Habashichin, Topine, Dashiche, Dotsedish Gishi Edashanala, Adotako Sanade, Ade Eyanasha. My name is Theresa Hatathlie-Delmar. I am the recently appointed Arizona State Senator for District 7, which has been redrawn and will be District 6 in the next few months. I also work and am one of the original co-founders for the Navajo and Hopi COVID-19 Relief Organization, in which I am employed also as a legislative liaison and also logistics coordinator. It's been quite a while. It's since I was talking about these positions, so it feels like a lifetime ago, but thank you very much. I appreciate being here. So thank you, Mahayo.
Awesome. And Lene, yeah, if you could just give us a few words, some introductory words.
Yeah, at Mahayo, yeah, at Sahar and Theresa, an honor to meet both of you. I am Lene Bitsui and Kilachini and Totoni Bashichin, Twitchini Dashiche Kiani Dashanela Kut I am pretty much just a Facebook social media person who brings awareness of tribal politics to our people, and through this platform it really helped to enlighten the minds of our people. And I really appreciate Mrs. Branch and Mahayo's hard work, and the entire organization there that has put Sihasin Hour together. And it's a really good platform, and I hope to see it grow even bigger than it is. And it's an honor to be here. Thank you.
Thanks, Lene. And I appreciate everybody's introductions. I know that I just noticed that I forgot to give my clans, but so She'eya Mahayo Menes Nishe Twitch Eatni Nishle Sinsakatni Bashish Chin Omaha Edashiche Cherokee Edashinale. And I'm from Chinle, Arizona. So thank you guys, thank you ladies for joining me. We're gonna go ahead and get started. We ran a little bit behind today. We're just I guess everybody's catching up from the weekend. It was a great weekend. Also, today is Navajo Sovereignty Day, I believe, and so it's nice to have it's nice to be able to come together on this day and just kind of talk a little bit about what had transpired with council last last week, just in terms of the spring council session. However, I was kind of I was letting everybody know as we had started that we'll talk a little bit about the state of the nation, the speaker's report, and then we can talk about any legislations that anybody might want to talk about more in depth. So I'm gonna kick us off here and just kind of go through some of the things that I wanted to highlight. So, you know, as we start the council sessions, we're always presented with a State of the Nation report by the president. We're also given a report by the speaker. So in this year's or for this session, the spring session that happened on April 25th, we had our president talk about quite a few things, and these are some of the highlights that I'm just pulling from his State of the Nation. And one of the things I thought that was good to know and is positive and is something that you guys are probably aware of is that on March 4th, the Navajo Nation moved to yellow status in terms of our COVID and our pandemic restrictions. So we're transitioning to more moderate, low restrictions here on the Navajo Nation. Now, one thing that they have been letting us know is that there's still a mask mandate in place, which I think is great, and I feel a lot safer about that. But a lot of there are quite a few other restrictions that have been lowered in terms of restaurant capacities, our business capacities, and some of the indoor and outdoor gatherings and those capacity requirements. Also, on that note, they did talk about our Navajo Nation Fair and Parade and how they will be having those this year, and they will assess it as we move forward, but that there are some capacity restrictions for indoor and outdoor events. So that is, I think that's good to know. Also, the president highlighted that in terms of the ARPA hardship assistance, that the Office of the Controller issued over 300,000 hardship assistance checks. And I think that everybody is becoming more and more aware of the hardship assistance checks if they've gotten them. And if your relatives have got them, it seems like on social media, everybody posts about those things. Also, the president recognized Sexual Assault Awareness Month, letting people know that he's been hosting webinars, him and his cabinet. He also talked about the First Lady and the Office of the First Lady and Second Lady developing a tribal community response plan to address lasting solutions to help find missing persons and to help heal our people. The plan includes 4 components: law enforcement response, victim support services, media strategies, integration of community-based resources. And those are the 4 components that were included in it. So as of recently, and it's been actually an issue that's impacted our communities, probably for tribal communities for decades, in terms of how our people go missing and we're not able to find them. So it seems that within maybe the past 5 years and maybe longer, people have started to organize to try to address these issues, to try to find their loved ones. So just noting that in terms of the president's State of the Nation, you know, his Office of the First Lady and Second Lady are developing a community response plan. They've also been mapping collaborative response plans to missing and murdered Indigenous relatives. Another thing that I think many people have heard of recently is the NTUA Light Up Navajo program. So that is a project of NTUA, where they are going into some of our more rural areas and connecting our people to the power grid, which is great. President also talked about the Navajo Veterans Housing Program under the Navajo Veterans Administration, letting us know that homes are being built and asking council to approve some ARPA funding to support these services. And that's been something that's been a slow going process for a number of administrations, and not just this administration, but we've really needed to have more homes built for our Navajo veterans. There's a lot of veterans who are on the waiting list, and it does seem like homes are coming very slowly, but the president talks about how his administration has built some homes and how he's asking the council for some funding to support these services. Also, the president talked about developing a revised plan to address basic infrastructure, public safety, rural addressing, senior centers. There's a whole laundry list: wellness centers, detox and healing centers, assisted living facilities, transitional housing. He also included economic development and funding for hardship assistance. Now, this particular plan, he said, would be funded by allocating 50 million to veterans housing, 50 million for homes, Navajo homes. And he also included that they wanted to allocate 745,000 to each of our 110 Navajo chapters for priority projects that they have queued up within their plans. So those are some of the things that the president talked about. The president also talked about, just briefly, meeting with Deb Haaland and the U.S. Secretary of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg, I might be saying that wrong, to address policy changes to streamline right-of-way clearances, so that they can streamline also construction projects. And I know that in a lot of cases, we're waiting for right-of-way clearances before we can move on constructing roads, other transportation infrastructure, and that stuff takes a lot of time. So hopefully that would move forward in a way that we could, like they're saying, streamline some projects. The president also talked about meeting with the U.S. Secretary of Energy, Jennifer Granholm, in a roundtable discussion to further implement the nation's renewable energy development. And he'd want to work together with federal, state, and other partners to develop more emissions-free energy to power homes and communities for our people. So those are just a few things that I kind of wanted to run through. I know it was a laundry list there, but right now I'd like to just have some response from our guests here, and we can go in any order, but maybe some of you ladies might want to talk about any particular of those topics that the president had presented in his State of the Nation. Anybody want to go first and on any of those particular topics? And I can repeat any of them, but just there's quite a few.
Mm-hmm. I want to make a comment. I think that the State of the Nation was very broad in perspective as far as talking to many of these issues. But most importantly, what gave me a sense of not acknowledgement, but a sense of safety is going the changing of the status to a moderate low level of the pandemic that we've been in. I think that that's very soothing of the mind, and to some level it gives some comfort. And one of the things that I've done the past few weeks is I had to attend meetings in Window Rock, and then also in Twin Arrows, and where a number of people came together, we congregated, and we were able to have a discussion. And in one of those meetings, I had the privilege of sitting with Shaja Peterson Zaw and his wife, and then some other elders, and I just had this like overwhelming sense. I didn't want to speak very much because I felt like I was gonna lose my composure, because there was a sense of kinship amongst all of us. and to be just within close proximity to many individuals was very healing to me. That's how I felt. And I just, listened to everyone, and it was an affirmation of the prayers and the blessings that we've come through up to this point through the pandemic. So I just wanted to acknowledge that in the State of the Nation address. And it was certainly a concerted effort to get to this point in time. So I have gone home and I've been able to spend time with our family, just not to the point where we were masked, and we were unmasked, but we still kept social distancing, just being vigilant, just making sure that we were going to be safe. Overall, that's one thing that I wanted to bring up. The other one that I wanted to bring forth was the missing and murdered Indigenous relatives. The initiative where that's concerned has been very slow moving. I know that over the years, there's been a number of individuals who have asked for financing in order to lay the groundwork to have those tools and resources for victims, as far as victim advocacy is concerned, and then also for those families who need that counseling. And so right now we don't have those resources. They're still in that building process, but it's going to take time and it's going to take money. And that's something that we have continued to have that conversation. And I can say the state of New Mexico, because of their democratic leadership within their legislature, have made such progress as far as instilling an individual within the office of the Attorney General, and then allocating money. Money isn't the answer to everything, but in this case, it can certainly make a difference. Again, to lay that groundwork here in the state of Arizona, it just seems like we're constantly hitting that wall. But overall, that's the other thing I wanted to bring forth. And then the third thing is whether it's the pandemic or even right now, one thing that we've learned is the pandemic has really brought forth many of these barriers that we have constantly brought up. We have these very same barriers within our Navajo Nation government, like NHA. Oh my goodness, you have to jump through, burning hoops of fire, and you have to just like eating your last slice of cheese before you even qualify. And goodness knows when they actually get a contractor to build that house. And that's by no means exaggerating the point. But what I've learned is that the federal government has not just one, but a few levels, poverty levels. And NHA uses that one guide that's like the lowest of the low. And I saw some of that, just some individuals who contacted me who needed rental assistance. The rental assistance, you have to meet a certain guideline, financial guideline. Even that was just so ridiculous. I'm just like, oh my gosh, I just couldn't wrap my head around how we just set ourselves up for failure. We're not there, we're not being proactive. We continue to set up these systematic barriers. And then now with this ARPA funding and all this funding, just unprecedented levels, but still we incorporate these systemic barriers. Somewhere we need to realize that and get rid of that. we need to somehow address that issue. And I think that's what continues to hold us in this bondage situation, that we can't even plan to prosper. We're just like planning just to survive. We're stuck right there. So why is it that our leadership continues to have that mentality? And so when you go into many of these situations, it seems like we're just boxed in all the time. And it's like the only way that we can get anything done is unless we continue to drill and grind at these individuals. And we tend to make them suffer even more before we're even able to assist them. So those are just some broad, just a broad observation that I've noticed. Even more so, it happened in the pandemic. It's happening still with this ARPA campaign. It's happening within our government in many offices and many departments. And I just wanted to bring that forward. And I was listening to an NHA report, or a veterans housing report, last year in the late fall. And I was just astounded the number of houses that NHA built. And then even more so, how many veteran homes were built. All those homes I can count on one hand. But we spend so much money in administrative costs and overhead costs. Anyways, I just wanted to share that. So I'm sorry, I don't mean to put a damper on our on our Sihasin hour. It means hope, but you have to identify these challenges and these barriers in order to see past it. You have to acknowledge that. But I can see that overall, I just think that, maybe new leadership can do something. But I think that if we were able to have these resources set up even for the pandemic, those individuals who were impacted spiritually, mentally, emotionally, those need to be addressed as far as physically also. And I think that that's where we would be able to take that next step in order to heal our nation as a whole. So I just wanted to state that. So
Great.
I will, that's all I'll contribute at this moment. And I know Sahar, it's so great to see you. I haven't seen you, it seems like an eternity. And then Lene also. So yeah, every once in a while, I always listen into your late night recaps of what's going on. And certainly you don't beat around the bush, but that needs, are you Twitch-8, did you say? I'm sorry.
Khadjenoury and Schlitzko to Twitch-8.
Oh, okay. You have some of that Twitch-8 in you. That's why you don't beat around the bush. So good to know you. And Khadjenouries are my nullies. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Theresa. Those were good insights, just in terms of some of the problems that we're continually facing and how challenging it can be to move forward as we assess the needs of the communities, and then we look at what's happening within the government. Then we see that just like you're saying, in terms of housing, there's so much more that needs to be provided to our communities. We have so many people on housing waiting lists. We have so many veterans that need to get homes. And when we start to quantify, then we can say, well, we only see X number, and it's been so many years, and there's been so much funding for this. What is going on with these situations? So I know that was just one thing I wanted to comment on in what you had said, but let's go ahead and hear from some of our other panelists. Does anybody want to go next? I know that Lene has only a little bit of time. But I know Sahar's been here as well too. So either one of you, if you'd like to go next.
Sahar, go ahead. I can wait. And I have time. Thank you, Mahaya.
Okay, sure. Yeah, Sahar, maybe give us a little bit of reflection on some of the things that we've just been talking about, and maybe some of the topics that I went over in the State of the Nation. But either way, thanks, Sahar.
Thank you. I was worried about Lene's time frame, but thank you so much. Something that you had mentioned earlier, and you reiterated the term streamlining. Streamlining is crucial for our nation, because at so many points and so many different services and programs that are offered or organized through our Navajo Nation, I feel like at a point it becomes bottlenecked, and then we slow down the progress, and it has to go to a committee to go to a committee, and then there's another committee, and then it just sits on a desk somewhere. And those kinds of things are really frustrating. And Theresa mentioned earlier the cost of and the access to housing through services like NHA. It's not only timely, but it's also incredibly expensive. Each one of these units, and I challenge each one of you to Google the cost of each NHA housing unit, singular home, and you'll be blown away at the costs. And I would love to see in the future perhaps a way to streamline, and I love that term, the, finding ways to be more cost efficient, more time efficient, and to reach those individuals who are truly in need of housing. And our veterans, our elders should remain at the forefront and make sure that we're taking care of these individuals. But as a nation, as a whole, not just housing, that also includes access to internet, even something as simple as having a more concerted effort to make sure all of our nation members have things like addresses, so that we see that reflected at the polls, and making sure that all of our Dene people are being heard at the voting polls, the booths. I'm going to just show you half of it. If you don't have that, get in contact with organizations. Rural Utah has a great program where they are out there helping people get their Google addresses, getting this plaque posted on their house to make sure that their addresses are recorded, and that people are not getting turned away at the polls, because at the end of the day, it's our nation members' votes that are going to be making these changes that voting for people who are all about progress, all about change. That's the only way that we're going to see improvement or progress across the board. That includes those relationships between jurisdictions, making sure those relationships are so crucial. People's lives are depending on it. Our missing and murdered Indigenous relatives. We need those relationships between tribal entities, state, federal, making sure that nobody's slipping between the cracks. These cases are not going cold. It is infuriating each time we see another face of a relative posted on Facebook, and they've just slipped through the cracks, and these cases have gone cold, and I feel so frustrated for these families. So I know it's so hard, because Theresa earlier you said it's Sihasin hour, but I do feel like there's hope. I feel like when we have a concerted effort, when we're all working together, we can see that. So a lot of those things are topics that I saw in the State of the Union address, seeing those, having those conversations with the different having conversations with the different entities together, and the word streamline, making sure that these conversations actually turn into action. That is huge, but in a timely manner and a cost-efficient manner. I think we can all agree across the board, money does help move things along, but making sure that we're concerting these efforts in a very fiscally responsible manner. That's the only way we're going to get things done, and get them done now. So and I don't want to I'm kind of bouncing all over it, but was really, I'm really excited to read some of the things that are happening in the State of the Nation address, but also at the same time, time is of the essence, and we're now at the um, the incline of presence of people that are running for different offices. So those conversations need to happen right now. We need to start learning more about those people who will be running. But before we do that, just making sure that as a Navajo Nation, we're all on the same page. We're all aware of the different efforts that are being taken to address some of these issues. And I think if we were all on the same page at the same time, I think that would really, really benefit because we have an understanding why, why the checks, hardship checks. I know a lot of people were upset because they took a long time, but also we have a lot of nation members, people's addresses changing, information changing, like all of this takes work. And so I think if we're all on the same page at the same time, we're moving together. I think that's really the only way that we could make that progress. That streamline can only happen when we're all on the same page.
Exactly. I think so. Mhm.
But I'm so excited, and I can't wait to hear from you as well, Lene.
Awesome. Yeah, Lene, go ahead and give us some insights. You're on mute. I'm sorry, you're on mute, just to let you know.
Yeah, thank you, Sahar and Theresa. I just wanted to, for me, I think that the main issue that I wanted to really talk about was the embarrassment that we are in as the largest nation, indigenous nation in this country, that we are unable to spend over $2 billion. We have money sitting in the bank earmarked for all these different programs, and our own leaders are getting in their own way and in front of progress, hope. And the needs of our people are so vast. Veterans, our elders, our children, Wi-Fi, it just goes on and on and on. When we have the money, mind you, we got that money on May 28th, 2021. And we are creeping up really close now, up to that 1 year mark of having these billions of dollars in there. We've spent it in 3 places so far. We spent it on, the first people that spent it was the legislative branch and the executive branch. They paid themselves 10%, which amounted to 180 million for the executive branch and 18 million for the legislative branch. As of 2 months ago, hardship was paid out from there. So we still have nearly $2 billion in the bank sitting there, not moving, collecting interest. And that's another question that our people need to think about, is where's this interest going? And so I'm really embarrassed that our tribe is a laughing stock, that those Navajos don't know how to spend money. And I'm really hoping and praying, because we are losing our people every day. Every day we're losing our culture keepers, our language keepers, and they're in need of these services. And chapter houses can't help because they don't have funds. I think that those funds need to be moved, and I think that these 2 entities need to sit down together to figure out how to spend these funds, because the proposals that they were both trying to introduce, it obviously it just fell off the talking table, if you will. I have such a love for my people and for our elders and our veterans especially, that they are not getting the services and the attention and the level of life that they need, even if it's just water, bathroom additions, electrical. And the funds are there. We could light up so many homes. We could fix a lot of roofs for the elders, because right now we're in a drought. and summer is here, and it's going to be hot, brutal, dry, and NTUA already set restrictions on our people. And how do we choose an enterprise over our own people in the heart of the Netka? How do we choose spending nearly 5 million on a house in Washington, 2 million being proposed to be spent on ranches in Colorado that's sitting on President Nez's desk for signature or veto? I don't know how he's going to go. But why are all these entities getting priorities over our own elders and our own veterans? So when I listen to the State of the Navajo Nation address and also the speeches made by delegates and speaker, it's just all words. And I feel like everybody has their mindset on re-election. They're not focusing on the problem at hand and to bring progress and hope back to our people. I am a real strong advocate for our elders that have messaged me every day. I get messages every single day from veterans and from elders. And they say, thank you for being my voice. I'm too scared to say something because the chapter house is going to take me off of the wait list for water. The chapter house is going to take me off the wait list for electric. So when you have beaten our people into submission like that, there's something wrong. And to have this money sitting there that could be utilized for our people right now, today, yesterday, last year, when it was there, it's just inhumane to treat our people like that. I don't see the I don't see the hajon. And I'm really hoping and praying that they come to a consensus to roll out these funds. And I'm not here to be nice about it. I listen to council every day. I listen to town halls every day when President Nez holds them. But I just really feel like the voices of our elders, they've given up. Their hope has been taken from them, from our veterans. Why in the world would we build a house for the very first veteran so it can be showcased rather than the veteran that's been on the wait list since 1980? It doesn't make sense to me. And I get so emotional because our people are dying waiting for services. And it makes me feel like, well, they're saving money. Is that how they think? Is that how they feel? We just let another one die. Okay, we get to save more money because we didn't have to build that bathroom addition, because we didn't have to hook them up to water. We don't have to build that veteran a house. They died, so oh well, we got more money. Our people need their hope restored. And I really appreciate platforms like this because the hurt goes so deep, so far back, generations back, that it's still the same today. My 90-year-old grandmother, she tells me, she lives with me, and she tells me it's still the same. I had her listen to some of these council sessions with me, and she said, granddaughter, is this from right now? And I said, yes, grandma, today they're talking right now. And she thought it was from 30, 40 years ago, because it was the same words, the same speeches that she's heard back then. So where's the hope that's been promised to our people? We have over $1 billion in the bank that we cannot seem to spend. And I see other indigenous tribes bringing their elders back from off reservation senior homes and building their own with these ARPA funds. That's the priority. I see the Cherokee Nation building these sites where they're going to have like a huge pantry for their tribe in case an emergency happens like this again. And I mean, they're just going, like, they are spending their funds and depleting those ARPA funds. And here we are, the biggest, greatest tribe in the country. We don't know how to spend the money except on ourselves, our own government. So for me, when I hear the executive branch and the legislative branch bickering like this, and our people are dying in the meantime, I don't give them credit for anything, because we need to move those funds. So on that note, I beg every listener here to register to vote. Please register to vote. We have to make a difference, and we have to do our homework and elect the most qualified person into office. And like Ms. Hatathlie just said, it might take a brand new administration to be the change and the hope that we need restored. So please, please, I beg everybody, register to vote. Thanks, Mahayo.
Awesome, thank you, Lene. Those are some very strong points that you made, and I also see that and can agree that we've had these ARPA funds that have been sitting there throughout the pandemic. We've had a lot of the inequity gap affecting our people. Our people can't just a lot of them can't just turn on the water faucet and wash their hands or have indoor plumbing. Our people, a lot of them aren't hooked up to the power grid, and they have to, they have to use ice and ice chests to refrigerate their food. They have to run and get propane all of the time. They have to. It was harder when services were shut down for them to access some of these resources. And as we look at it and we see it, our tribe has had this funding that could be used to close these gaps and to get to improve the lives and the quality of lives and the infrastructure that affects our people in these negative ways. So we, like you're saying, we can't just sit back and watch them continue to bicker and amend these legislations over and over because they can't get on the same page and seem to agree. When we do see that one side or the other proposes a plan, it consistently gets amended. It goes over and then it gets vetoed. And then we have to go back to the drawing board. And how many times have we done that thus far with these funds? And it's not in a lot of ways, and you guys probably know, and you guys have worked within certain administrations or see insights into our government, our Navajo Nation government, but it starts to come down to who's going to take credit for which of these legislations goes through. Is it going to be the executive or is it going to be the legislative? And that just starts to get ridiculous when, as you say, and as we see, our people are passing away, and it's due to some of these things, these resources, these houses, the connectivity to the sewer, to electricity, to improved roads that we just can't seem to move forward on. And how many years has it been? It hasn't just been this administration. It hasn't been the one before. But because this is where we're at now, right now, currently, then that's how we look at our leaders who are deciding the appropriation of these funds. So does anybody else, would you like to respond to some of the insights that Lene had brought up? Senator?
I just want to say, I didn't say anything about anything in depth regarding ARPA or even CARES, because I know that that's one of the areas that Chanel, Ms. Bitsui is always doing her platforms, advocating in different ways on these different issues. I think that if there was a meeting of the minds and there's dialogue between our leadership, you know, there's many personalities that are at play, and these personality conflicts and how there's an approval that happened on how ARPA would be managed is through their proposals, applying for this proposal and that proposal, and having that application process, approval process. And now they're talking about doing equal distribution amongst all chapters, and then also amongst the delegates within their delegate regions. And it's slowly changing and it's slowly evolving, but there's pushback from that. And somewhere in there needs to be common ground. When I look at the nation, yes, you know, roads are an issue, infrastructure is an issue all the way across the board, lack of housing. A lot of those issues has already been there. And so I guess the absent part of that is the spiritual, mental, emotional wellness. That's not something that you can build on. You can't just, you know, it's not like infrastructure. And so we're coming out of just unprecedented times, and people are in mourning. People are suffering the long haulers of COVID. And so where are they going? You know, we have a burnout among our medical community. And so many of these issues need to be addressed. And so where is these monies going? How are these resources being invested into that? And so when you have a majority of the people who are downtrodden, and they need that revitalization, they need that hope. And when they see this infighting of our leaders, just that blatant disrespect of a dialogue, just speaking and throwing each other under the bus, how do you plant hope in people when that is being displayed in front of you? And so in my community, which is coal mine near Tuba City, and then even in Tuba City, there's a lot of people that I've known who have become ill with COVID, and many people who have passed due to COVID. And so people that I know are not just limited to these communities, but amongst many communities, medicine people, and then even people in higher ed, and people who are educators, who are counselors, and from many walks of life. The bottom line is that there are relatives. And so sometimes when you talk to them, you communicate with them so that you understand and that they understand, and you empathize with them and you touch their heart, and in their mind they take that to improve themselves. And then also it makes them feel happy too, gives them hope in that sense. And so I listen to a lot of what goes on out there, and I don't hear that. I hear people just throwing each other under the bus, you know. But where are these solutions? Where are these solutions? I think that, you know, I heard that there was some leadership work sessions that happen at Twin Arrows, it would be nice if there was some sort of response, and to say that it's not much, but we're going to tweak this system. Let's go ahead and maybe create a formula. The formula could be whatever is allocated out of ARPA, maybe 50% of that can be equal distribution, and then the rest of it can be based on these proposals, because these proposals, there was such an investment of time. There was such an investment of time. And with that, also from the leadership perspective, also there's other entities out there that have been running to help, the relatives on Navajo. How come they're not being funded? How come they're not part of that discussion to say, come to the table, what can we provide? The past 2 years, there's this, the past few years, I should say, we have this junk food tax, right? How come we're not helping these communities to address these food sovereignty issues? We have a number of nonprofits on the Navajo Nation. We have the U of A Arizona Extension organization that can come out and they can help communities put these together. But we're not, as Sahar stated earlier, we're not streamlining. We need people, we need action plans with timelines. But these resources are out there. This is not anything new. It's not new what we're talking about. We need to put a process in place so that we have people who have the knowledge to come and say, hey, I have this resource. I've been meeting with an organization down here called the Arizona Department of Housing. And Lene, I invite you guys to go to their website. I invite you, Sahara, to Sahar, to bring it into your community, our organization. And they're like, we have built homes on the reservations in communities. That's what they have said. And so, this home site lease process, goodness, it took 10 years for my daughter. We were probably harassing that office. Literally like every other week, and I had a home site because of the situation, a personal situation regarding my sister. I gave her my home site with everything done and thinking that, that it's going to be a simple process. It took 3 years for me just to transfer my home site to her so that she can be with her family. And I had to actually contact a Navajo Nation Council, 2 committees before people started moving. And I'm like, goodness, you have to practically move mountains and recreate a canyon in order to make things happen. And council had to call over there, and my goodness, does it really involve that much labor? And here they're like, oh yeah, we can just print it. We've had it ready for quite a while. We've been trying to get a hold of you. And I'm like, I have the same phone number. All of my emails are on that paper, and I have a mailbox. So how did you guys try to get a hold of me? And so, and the turnover of people is I don't know how many people I've spoke to just for that one transfer. And then now I find out that the way that they did the survey on that land is wrong. So what we thought was that land is suddenly like 15 to 20 feet difference. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's just, and I was like, you know what? Just build a house right there. If they're going to come and have a cow, we'll just show them this paperwork and tell them it was their own fault. But anyways, I think that all the way around, it's just like I was saying earlier, it's a systematic barrier. And I honestly believe that, you know, we're so beholden to the federal government, right? It's just ingrained in us. What do they call that syndrome? There's a syndrome, the Stockholm syndrome, right? We're practically prisoners. That's all we know. And so now we're creating this government that's the same as the federal government. We create our own systemic barriers, and we just continue to keep our own people in poverty. When are we going to break that cycle? And I honestly believe that if we were to decentralize, I think that would make a big difference, because I'm tired of driving to Window Rock. That's the only way I was able to get that simple form signed. That's all it was just a form. But all the way around, I think those are some of the things that are so important, is that we communicate not to understand. We communicate to respond. And if we're not getting credit, goodness, we're gonna fight tooth and nail to make sure that even my toe print is on that paper. And why does it have to be like that? You know, it's one less heartache for our elderly and for our young youth. Kids shouldn't grow up in a multi-generational home. And in many of these places, there's all kinds of atrocities that take place. And so from the home level, as people say, the Hogan level, a lot of people don't live in Hogans anymore. But we need to start concentrating on that healthy communication, healthy lifestyle, and be courageous enough to make that change. So that's my 2 cents.
Awesome.
If anybody hears me, it would be great if we could come up with strategies to make it happen. But that's just little old me from coal mining.
Thank you, Theresa. Great insight, and great comment on some of the things that we're discussing here. Sahar, did you have anything you might want to add right now?
I just want to finish up a thought.
Mm-hmm.
Aside from the things that we have been struggling with, I want to leave with a note of optimism. We can do it. We can do whatever we truly, genuinely want. And I know this because if we can all reflect, Navajo Nation had highest COVID rate per capita, but with participation, with a streamlined effort and participation through the Navajo Department of Health, IHS, and all of the 638 healthcare facilities, we could now boast that we had, I think that was like a 72% vaccination rate. That's phenomenal. We bounced back from being, this community of people who was hit the hardest by COVID, then to turn that around and flip those numbers. So I know that we can do it. In regard to anything that we genuinely, truly want to do, we just need a conversation between all the different entities and making sure that we're all voting. And I can't stress that enough. So I want to thank the other panelists today for having that conversation. Yeah, really great terms, really great topics discussed today. But that Sihasin is strong. I know that we can move forward and we can do it. We've done it in battling COVID. We're still in yellow. It's not over. We still need to be vigilant. We still need to follow proper precautions. But in other aspects of our Dene life and the issues that we're addressing within infrastructure, we can do it if we're all working in a unified, concerted effort.
Awesome. Thank you, Sahar. Appreciate that. I know that Theresa just let me know that she has to get going. So Theresa, before you go, if you wanted to say anything, that'd be awesome.
Sure. Thank you, Shatila, and then Shanala and And Sahar, I'm not related to you, but based on your clans, but thank you very much for being here and just greeting you as Shadeja. So thank you very much. I can't express the importance of voting. Over the years, history has shown that Navajo Nation, all indigenous nations, 22 indigenous nations in the state of Arizona, have flipped the state blue. We have elected governors. We have made a difference. And this past 2020 election, no matter how much people try to recount it until they're blue in the face, literally speaking, the Navajo Nation, all voters on the Navajo Nation have come out and they have voted. 98% of all Navajo voters came out and they voted blue and voted in a Democrat, and that Democrat is now our president. And because of that, we have people of diverse backgrounds who have been appointed. We have had our lands reclaimed like Bears Ears and many of these national monuments to protect our environment. And that's so important, is that we need to come out, we need to vote, and that's how our voice is heard. Change doesn't happen within 24 hours. But when you're talking about access to education for public schools right now is in jeopardy because we are at the mercy of the majority. And then also our voting rights we're in jeopardy, where it's being jeopardized. That's the democracy that is being infringed upon. You know, many of the people on these indigenous nations, they have IHS hospitals. I was born there, you know, more than 50 years ago in Tuba City, but my birth certificate does not have my name. And then there's this birth certificate that came forth that doesn't even have the accurate name. And then it has 2 different birth dates, you know, and it's so real. But you know, majority, I have used myself as an example on the floor of the Arizona Senate. And I said, look, here are my documents. This is the reason why it took me when I was in 6th grade all the way until I was in 10th grade to fix my birth certificate. And gosh, some of our elders don't even have birth certificates. There was, and as many of you have known, Shadeja, Council Delegate Eugenia Charlton has posted on her page that an elderly person was trying to get their birth certificate, was trying to get some sort of legal ID, and they went round and round. And so we need to have those resources. That is how the federal government is continuing to subject us to this type of systemic racism. And it's still real today. And one way of trying to erase us. And so the only way we can make that change is through voting. So register to vote. Please register, not just within Navajo, but within the state and even at the federal level. So that's the only thing that I wanted to put out there. Give your relatives a ride to make sure that they vote. Help them. It needs to start now. Your kids who are turning 18, get them to vote. It's just so important. So I have to go. I have a briefing pretty soon, and I got to get back to my salt mine.
All right. Go ahead, Theresa.
Thank you so much. This is awesome. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
You too. You too. Well, we're going to kind of start to wrap up here, but I wanted to just go ahead and also give Lene a little bit more time to maybe follow up on some of her comments that she might have maybe hasn't been able to address, maybe some topics she hasn't been able to address. I also wanted to just note that I just went through the highlights of things I pulled from the the president's State of the Nation. And I also just wanted to let everybody know that a lot of the speakers report hit on some of the same topics. They talk about the ARPA funding, and they talk about proposing new legislations to address the spending of ARPA. And that's one of the things that we had talked about today. They talked also about proposing oil and gas operating agreements. And those are agreements that would also affect some of the extractive development that are affecting our Navajo Nation. So I thought that was important to note. You know, a lot of the speakers' reports and of course the State of the Nation reports are ways that the administrations are able to kind of polish what they've been doing within the past quarter. But you know, as we looked at some of the legislations that had went through in this particular council session, sometimes it doesn't correlate in terms of what progress is being made. I did see that in watching the council session that one of the legislations that we've been following, legislation 0232-21, was referred to back to Nabikiatke, and that's the legislation regarding the agreements between the Navajo Nation and the Navajo Oil and Gas Company on the proposed helium project development. So in those ways, we can see that extractive development, it keeps moving forward. You know, we table it, but it comes back. And what's going to happen when we go to Nabikiatke, and what are they going to say? You know, are we just moving this legislation slowly forward? However, aside from that, Lene, I just kind of want to give you a little bit more time to go ahead and maybe offer some more comments, and maybe if you had any specific comments on on any legislation. But I'm going to give you some last words here. Go ahead, Lene.
Oh yeah. So I really appreciate the time that you've given me to cry and to share our message of registering to vote, not only on Navajo, but on the state level as well. It's really, really important, like my Nali Hatathlie said. Yes, I actually would like to stress the fact that we have a couple legislations out there now, and I am begging our people to email, call, and Facebook message Navajo Nation President Jonathan Nez to veto legislation 0252-21. That is to help the Colorado ranches of almost $2 million to help mitigate the drought that they're experiencing. Why I'm asking this is, why are we, the nation, digging into our savings account to help mitigate a drought? To me, drought means we're going to fix your wells and your windmills and help with the beautification of grass or hay or whatever. But on their list, they have 3 3/4-ton brand new trucks. They have 2 3/4-ton brand new gas trucks, a flatbed. They want to repaint all their cottages, and that one totaled about $55,000. So all of these expenses, including brand new vehicles and a flatbed, ATVs, UTVs, it just was a whole list of nonsensical items to me as a Navajo Nation card-carrying CIB person. I really don't feel like our savings account should be dipped into to help a ranch off the nation, and with vehicles, with 40,000 bales of hay, and also to buy $30,000 worth of bulls. So we're here back on the nation under water restrictions last year. They were threatening fines to people for overhauling water. We have broken down wells. We have livestock that are dying in the desert due to dehydration. And yet we're going to pay for brand new vehicles and bulls, and we're forced to reduce our livestock. It just doesn't make sense to me. So please, please contact Navajo Nation President Jonathan Nez and encourage him to veto that legislation. I am appalled that we have wasted so much funds on that when we could have used the 2 million here to fix windmills and wells for our livestock and our people to haul water, because going all the way to the well sites that NTUA runs, it's really, it takes a lot from your pocketbook, and to be under restrictions, and then some people don't adhere to it, and the water runs out and you have to plan another trip the next day. So those are where our people need these funds here. So please, I encourage everybody to write to him and also to register to vote. I cannot stress that enough, because we are the voice to the voiceless. We are the voice to our elders and our veterans who have given up, who have lost hope. So please, please, everybody, let's do this for them. Let's do this for our people, and let's get our government back. Nice meeting you, Sahar. Thank
Nice
you.
meeting you.
Thanks, Lene. Go ahead and sign off. I appreciate it. Thanks for being a part of the conversation. And we'll talk again soon. Sahar, you've been a wonderful guest, and I appreciate you being on the call. Sahar was the first to show up, and we were just chatting a little bit. And it's been a little while since I've been able to talk with you, but I really do appreciate you coming on and being able to share your opinions with us. It was great, and it was very insightful. Before we go, I just want to also let everybody know to join us tomorrow. Tomorrow on Sihasin Hour, we're going to welcome a special guest, Raymond Austin, Professor Raymond Austin, and he's going to give us a little bit of a discussion, a talk on Navajo Sovereignty Day. So tomorrow at noon, please tune in. Tuesday, April 26th. It's going to be at, I'm sorry, please give me one chance to correct myself. It's going to be at 1 p.m. Navajo time, 12 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Join us then. This flyer is going to be on our webpage, on our Facebook, just right after this. So please join us tomorrow. Also on Wednesday, I just wanted to also point out that this Wednesday we will have on our normal Sihasin Hour, we'll have guests, Lene at City and Dr. Margaret Redsteer, and they're going to talk about raising livestock in the age of climate change. So this month on Sihasin Hour, we've been highlighting topics that deal with climate change in our climate change series. Tune in on Wednesday. That's at our normal time, 12 noon Navajo time, 11 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. So please join us, everybody. And I want to thank our guests, our panel of guests again. Thank you, Sahar. And until next time, we'll see you guys. So, Hagoanet.
Go ahead.